My name is Benno Schmidt. I'm an interaction designer, but most importantly, I'm a platelet donor at Children's Hospital. I've been donating platelets for about 5 years now. I have an 8-gallon pen. And this is the machine that I donate platelets with. And I love this machine. So I'm going to talk to you about why I think the interactions work so well, and talk about maybe why some other interactions don't work so well. So if you can't quite see it at the top, but this is the thing to write down. There's a task workflow at the top of this interface. Load, info, prepare, donate, and unload. I get that. I don't know how to take platelets from somebody, but I can read that. And as the donor, my expectations are pretty well managed. I'm not worried too much about what's going to happen here. When we're in the load stage, well, I see pictures of the machine itself. And again, I'm not quite sure what's going on with those tubes, but I get close and I get clamp. And so again, I can look at this machine as they're getting set up to take my donation. I'm pretty comfortable. There's my anticoagulant, I get it. Ins need to equal outs. Here's me. I have to apologize for user interface designers right now because we're afraid of facial features. So, there's no eyes and ears, but that's me. Okay, this is a little more technical, but since I've seen all that other stuff, I don't, I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at here, but again, it seems okay. And if you notice down at the bottom right, that's me, and I'm not supposed to be in the chair. So I like that. Whatever's going on here, I shouldn't be sitting down right now. I've done my run. And now I'm looking at a screen that has some things that I see this during the donation, and these are things that I understand and I appreciate. So pressure is me squeezing, right? So if it's green, it's good. If it's red, it's bad. There's my platelet volume. That's what I donated that day. And up at the top is a little progress bar. It took me 62 minutes to do it. I got to get to work. I appreciate that. So I don't know if the designers of this interface thought of all these things, but my point is that it faces the technician. So here's an interface that faces the medical professional and it faces the donor. So patient-facing and professional-facing. Ideally, interfaces to my mind should face a third person, the caregiver, but in this case there's not a caregiver in the room right now. So here's the machine being disconnected. Again, I'm feeling pretty good about that. And why does that really matter? Because when you look at the actual machine, that's kind of intimidating. I mean, I don't know much about centrifuges, but that's one down there. And that's a circuit full of my blood. So that screen really helps me manage my expectations, and it makes me comfortable in a situation where I might not be so comfortable. There's close-up. Now, other medical devices I've seen don't really do that. Now, you could say, okay, fine, this is one that a patient doesn't see all the time, but you know what? This one is. And what is this? This is like the Google TV remote that Sony's making right now. Super complicated. I don't know what to do with this, but it's in the room with me. And what should I be thinking about that? Now, the trim is not perfect. Here's a card that's attached to it that walks through some other stuff. But, I actually think this is a really nice way of handling secondary information. Laminated card. People know how to do the things they need to do. I don't need to see that. The Trima has a thing on it that is really important. This is a clue. And you can't read it, but it says a warm donor is a happy and productive donor. But this is, if you're looking at devices and you see things like this, they're telling you something. So if you've ever flown out of Dulles, if you've ever flown out of BWI and you go to the daily parking lot, you're going to see this machine. If you look closely, someone has put stickers on all of the parts of this machine because there's a big problem. Now, interestingly, this machine is in a parking lot 2 blocks from here underneath 11 East Taverna and has none of these things on it. So the question would be, what is it different about being a BWI and being in Bethesda that makes people cover this machine with stickers? But these stickers tell you, if you make a device, or you make an interaction, or you make anything that your users are involved with, these tell you that your users are fixing your interface for you. Okay, and if they're not fixing it for you and you don't fix it, you end up with the blue screen over the gas pump. Should I be pumping the gas? I don't know. If you do self-checkout at Giant, you have to sign here. Has anybody done this? Because it's the interaction where you have to go backwards to go forwards. The manager at that Giant has helped you. And if this is your device, you should be thanking them. The produce manager is helping you here because the printer is printing off all these labels nobody wants. They gave you a place to put them. This bank manager out in Bowie is helping you because, look, more envelopes are here, thanks. That means that manager has spent a lot of time having people say, I can't find the envelopes, right? So if this is your device, you blew it, but your user is helping you fix it. Okay, here we are at New Carrollton. Credit card, debit card, or $10 bill only. That means somebody was trying to put in 5s and 1s and they don't know. So the station manager went out and put up this sign. They're helping the person who designed this device. So no matter, my point is, the treatment works well because it thinks about who's in the room, the patient and the medical professional. If the treatment didn't work, it would have a lot of things like this on it because look, if your signage system fails, somebody's going to fix it for you. Now here's one of mine, because I should call shenanigans on myself. I don't know if you can read it, but I was interviewing a user who said, I'm a big fan of using print screen to remember how I got to a certain place in the application. So that was me, and I'm thinking, oh. But I took that advice, I went back to my boss, and I said, we have a huge workflow problem. Now, here's how you solve the Comcast remote. And that's super funny, but look, this is the same kind of thing we see in the medical space. This is a patient's room, and that kind of, I'm going to fix it with a sign mentality is how these problems get solved. Now I will say, if you do anything in a hospital room, if you're designing anything in a hospital room with a surface and it doesn't take tape, that's a fail, and you should just go back right now. So the point is, how do we anticipate these problems? Well, you have to care. And I know that's obvious, but I've worked with a lot of software developers who say things like, the user's going to have to learn not to do that. Or they say, hey, you know what? The data model in the database is exactly what the interactions model should be. Or they say, I had a product manager tell me this, all our users are really lazy. Okay? And what not to do? If you think that you're the user, if you, the developer of the thing, think that you're a proxy for the user, you're not. You're an imposter. And you should not be banging yourself. Because I'm not the user. I go out and interview my users. It's hugely tempting to say, I make this thing, of course I understand everything about it. You don't. Okay? So you have to get over that. You have to study, and there's a lot to study. But you need to understand data relationships, you need to understand user workflows, and sometimes it goes pretty clean and neat, sometimes it's a big mess. But out there are answers that you can use. That too is red for a reason. Maybe that can help you solve your problem, but you have to look for this stuff. Those three symbols, the two orange and the two red, that means something. Maybe that can help you solve the problem that you have there. You just have to look. So, in conclusion, think about who's in the room. You need to design your interactions and your interfaces for who is in the room. That is probably a medical professional, a patient, and a caregiver. If you think about those three user types, you're going to do okay. If you don't, well, no device and wrong device is what they're going to think about what you've done, and pretty soon that's going to become meaningless. So that's it. I have one last thing. One last thing to write down. This number, 202-476-5437, that is the Blood Donor Center at Children's Hospital. If you want to see the treatment in action, you can go in at 7 and they'll have you to work by 10.
So repeat that. Repeat the number.
202-476-5437. They've got a fridge full of Sun Cup, they've got all the Nabisco cookies you want, and the coffee is really good. So thank you very much.